Hey, what's up everyone? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at the new Spider-Man Marvel Legends Black Cat figure. This is a great figure. It's sculpted really wonderfully. And I do really like the figure though, all joking aside. They gave her quite the chest, but it's mostly based on the Moonstone and Satana figure from the SDCC box set. So it's a little different in that they had to sculpt the fur around the gloves, new hands, they had to sculpt these gloves, so I'm assuming the lower arms are all completely new. They sculpted the fur there, the necklace up there, obviously it has a new head, and they had to sculpt new boots. I don't think these are the same boots as Satana, but I could be wrong. You know what? I'm gonna check. Hang on 1 minute. I just checked and I was right. They are different boots because she doesn't even have heels. The only one that has heels is Emma Frost. So I'm gonna check on that. Alright, I checked on the boots or shoes and hers are unique to her. Emma Frost had similar shoes. Emma Frost's heels were not as useful. They weren't quite flat, so she was hard to stand, but she had good ankles. This one has kind of wonky ankles, so she's also hard to stand even though her heels are better, but we'll get into that. So what I was saying about her being the same but not quite the same as the SDCC females is that she no longer has a bicep swivel. And there was one other thing. What was the other thing? I don't know. Wow, this review is falling apart fast. No, well, anyway, let's just talk about the figure. It doesn't really matter what the other ones had anyway. She's about 6 1/4 inches tall. And what I was going to say, just to kind of wrap that up before we move on, we got new sculpting for this figure, so they took away the bicep swivel, and I believe the upper arms are completely new then. So they had to do some retooling for her, so they saved the money from the articulation and put it into the sculpt. That's all I was getting at, so let's just move forward. She comes with a whip. It's not bendable or anything. I mean, it won't hold a bend, but it is a softer material. It's sculpted pretty well. It has these little claws on here. It's painted nicely. The handle's nicely sculpted. She can hold it well enough, but not quite perfectly. It's still a little bit loose in her hand, so she'll hold it, but it's not great. The head sculpt on this figure, I think it is fantastic. The hair is done really well, the face is done really well. It really doesn't get any better than this. It's painted well, the blue's in there for a nice wash to give her the shading. Her face is painted nicely. It's not 100% perfect, but it's done really well, and the mask is actually sculpted on, so that's a huge bonus. Really love this head sculpt. One of the best we've ever seen from Hasbro for a female. And it's on with the standard ball peg, unfortunately. No hinge in there, but it'll do well enough. The necklace is sculpted. Again, the fur is all sculpted, so it's all really good. Her shoulders are standard ball hinges. Again, there's no bicep swivel, but you will get an effective bicep swivel out of the elbow, which is the hinge with the peg, so it's okay. The wrist swivels. Does it have a hinge? It does not. It's just a standard peg, so it just has a swivel. Open hand on this side, gripping hand on this side. Paint could be better on the wrists for sure. Hopefully you can see that. The blue doesn't come all the way down. The diaphragm joint works really well. She leans all the way back, pretty far forward. Twists, of course, leans to the side. Super effective diaphragm joint for her, so I don't really miss the ab crunch or waist twist with this figure. They did a great job with it. The black is mostly uniform throughout. There's no shading, but it's just glossy enough throughout the whole figure that I'm okay with it. It looks pretty good, and now that I'm looking at it, there are a few wrinkles in the thighs, so even maybe the thighs got resculpted as well. Got a new sculpt for this figure. I'll have to go back and look. But again, this figure is really good on its own, so comparing it to the others isn't entirely necessary, and the two things that I was thinking of, one being the bicep swivel, and one being something else that I cannot place. Wish I could. I don't know. Anyway, it makes up for it in being awesome, and it's way better than the old Black Cat figure, so that's great. Hips come all the way forward to the side, not so much, again, only about 45, but we have a cut joint here, so we can get her legs around pretty much anywhere we want to. Double jointed knees, and then the ankle, what I wanted to talk about earlier, has the pivot and it has the ankle rocker technically, but it basically goes straight down, it just at this kind of weird angle, so it's going to be pretty hard to get her to stand. And if you look, hopefully you can tell it's not too bright, the feet stick out kind of at an angle this way and this way, So it's really hard to get her to stand effectively. The heels are good, so that's not the problem. The small foot base is not a problem. That'll be just fine. But the angle of the feet is really tricky. So maybe bringing the legs kind of together like this and then posing her in more an upright stance shouldn't be too bad, but it will be a little tricky. So that pretty much does it for this figure. It's absolutely great. It could be better in the articulation department, but it really doesn't need to be because it looks that good everywhere else. Without a doubt, this is a must-have for a Marvel Legends collector. Do not pass up this figure. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for more figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.